Hello students, welcome to this class. In this class, we are going to study about a very important topic. This is the first unit of your class 12th, and here we are going to talk about the charges. Let us suppose if I say I have charge plus Q, okay, and I have say charge minus Q. I know that these charges are going to attract, right? But somehow if I am holding these charges, it means that these charges are at rest. So here in this unit we are going to study about charges at rest, that is we are talking about electro means charges and at rest means electrostatic. So here we are going to cover electrostatics. Now in electrostatics you will find that the things which we need to cover is we are going to talk about frictional electricity. So we will be talking about the frictional electricity. So this we will be doing it in details. After frictional electricity, we will be doing about electric field. So we will have electric field. After electric field, we will be talking about electric potential. And after electric potential, we will be talking about the application of what all we have studied. We are going to study about the capacitors. So this is how we are going to go from one step to another. Like you will not be able to understand the capacitors unless you know about the electric field, unless you know about the electric potential. You will not be able to understand electric field unless you know about what is basically the charges. So gradually what you will find that the understanding of the chapter is going to take place. Now when we come across word frictional electricity, this word we had been experiencing for a long time. Isn't it? Like for example, especially during the winters, you will find that if you touch someone you really get a shock, or if you are touching a cupboard you get a shock. And then you will find that if you have a quilt and you rub the quilt, you find that the sparks they come out from the quilt. So these are the phenomena which are seen from in day-to-day life. So let's try to understand what is basically meant by the frictional electricity. Take an example. Here we will just be seeing an example. Let us suppose if I have a cloth, let us suppose say this is a silk cloth, okay. So this is silk cloth. And let us suppose I have a rod, say this is a glass rod. So I am talking about a glass rod. Now when silk rod and silk cloth and glass rod, they are rubbed against each other. So very important, they are rubbed. So when they are rubbed against each other, you will find that the charges they get accumulated on silk cloth and the glass rod. So this process of acquiring charges by body, when they are rubbed with each other, this is known as frictional electricity. So obviously you will find that in case of glass cloth and the glass, in case of silk cloth and the glass rod, we find that the charges on the rod are positive, whereas the charge which is acquired by the silk cloth is going to be negative. So this positive and negative charge, when they meet, so again they will be giving energy, there will be a movement of charges. So this electricity which is produced by these static charges is known as frictional electricity. Now the question which may arise in your mind is, will silk cloth always be negative with the glass rod? Yes. Because whether the charges are going to be negative or positive, it decided by the fact as to how tightly the valence electrons are bounded to the nucleus. In case of glass rod, you will find that the energy which is required for the electron to move out from the glass rod is less as compared to the silk cloth. So what happens when you rub silk cloth and the glass rod together? You are supplying energy. That energy has been taken by the valence electrons, and you will find that since the electrons are not bounded very firmly with the glass rod, the nucleus of the glass rod, you will find that this electrons will go from glass rod to silk cloth, and therefore now the electron is being lost by the glass, and therefore this will acquire positive. And whereas the silk cloth is taking electrons, okay, the electrons, this is the movement of the electron, and therefore this is going to be negatively charged. And that is why you find that these charges are there. So whenever two objects are rubbed against each other, whether they will acquire a positive charge or negative charge, it lies in the explanation of their electrons, how they are bounded to the nucleus. So when two bodies are rubbed with each other, some electrons of atoms of one body are transferred into another body. The body losing electrons becomes positively charged, and the other gaining electrons, they become negatively charged. Take an example, take an example of, let us suppose I say I have a silk cloth, I have a silk cloth, and let us suppose I again have a rod here, and say this rod is basically ebonite rod. Ebonite is basically a hard rubber rod. So what happens now, when you rub silk cloth and ebonite rod, now you will find that if you compare how the electrons are bounded, then you will find that from silk cloth the electrons are going to be transferred to ebonite rod. So what will happen, the silk will become positive and the ebonite is going to become negative. So this is how the charges, positive and negative charges, are basically generated when you are rubbing them. Now the names, when you talk about, right, say initially when the study of these frictional electricity or the electrostatic charges were there, then the name positive and negative, actually this name was given by Benjamin Franklin. So Benjamin Franklin has given the names as positive and negative charge, and maybe this positive and negative charges name has come because if you talk of mathematics, plus something, okay, plus 1 minus 1 is nothing but it is 0. So what we say is neutral. So atom as a whole is neutral. So something for the neutral, there must be equal number of positive charges and equal number of negative charges. We say that the body is made up of equal number of positive charges and negative charges. And therefore you will find that we talk about positive and negative charges. This is where the name has come from. And this charges which are generated, right, the unit of this charge basically is coulomb. So either you write small COULOMB. If I say charge of say 1 coulomb, so I will write it like this, or what you can write it as 1 and capital C. These are the following rules, some rules which we try to follow. Now see, as it is, you are not able to see the charges, right? So how we can detect the charges? So basically what we have is, we have an apparatus which is known as gold leaf electroscope. So we have an apparatus which is known as gold leaf electroscope. Now in this apparatus, what basically we have is, we have a container. So basically we have a container, something like this. Okay, this is enclosed, and here what we have is, we have a knob, metal knob made up of copper. This wire is there, and then we have 2 leaves. This is basically gold leaf electroscope. So basically these 2 leaves, and this is all basically insulated from the, so that there is no variation, there is no deflection of this leaf due to any stray winds or something like that. Now what happens, if you take a rod, a charged rod, let us suppose a charged rod is brought here. Now these positive charges, if you are touching it like this, right, let us suppose, then the charges will be equally distributed, and therefore there will be a repulsion of the gold leaf. If there are no charges, the gold leaf basically will be overlapping each other, one here and one here. But because of the charges, you will find that the charges will be distributed, and you will find that these leaf are going to be diverted. And more is the diversion, you will find that the more will be the strong the charges. So this is basically, it is basically used, this is basically used to detect charges, whether the charges are present or not. Now let's talk something about properties of charges. Like we had spoken about the charges, right? So now let's talk about properties of charges. So here we will be discussing about conservation of charge. Now see, a conservation of charges says that the charge can neither be created nor destroyed. It can be simply transferred from one body to another. Like you cannot really create or destroy a charge. Like for example, if you take this example, okay, let's see this. We have taken this example, right? So before actually rubbing, what was the total charge? Let us suppose this is basically, I have, this is my system, right? So if I say what was the total charge before rubbing, the total charge before rubbing was 0. Okay, because jitne positive charges, that many number of negative charges. But after rubbing, so after rubbing, what is the total charge? Now see here, purposely if there are 4 positive charges here, there will be 4 negative charges here. So here you will find that your charges even after rubbing is coming out to be 0. That is, you are saying that the charges are conserved. You must have seen reactions, like there are certain reactions. Let's try to understand this. So there are certain reactions. For example, if I say I have a reaction where uranium 238, and this is atomic mass number, is getting converted into thorium. You can say thorium 234 and thorium 90, plus you will have helium, this is 2 and 4. Now see here, if I talk of conservation of charges, these lower numbers are nothing but these lower numbers are atomic number. Atomic number, these are capital Z. And these larger number at the top are atomic mass number. This is atomic mass number. And atomic mass number means protons plus neutrons. And atomic number means it is number of protons. So here you will find that since these are the charges, you can see 238 means 234 plus 4. So that conservation is there. 92 means 90 plus 2. So this is basically coming because of the conservation of charges. Let us suppose if some numerical or some question is given to you where this number is not specified. Let us suppose, say this is x, and now they tell you find the value of x. I think you will be able to do it because it will be 238 minus 4. You will get it as 234. So this is basically your conservation of charges. Now second property which we are going to deal, the second property which we are going to deal is we are going to deal about the charges, and we say that the charges are additive in nature. This was the first property. Second property we say that the charges are additive in nature. So let's see, the charges are additive. Charges are additive in nature. What does it mean? It means that the charges can be added or subtracted like your normal algebraic operations. Like for example, if I say I have a charge minus E, then I have a charge minus 2E plus 3E plus 4E. Okay, I have these charges, let us suppose. And now if I say what is the total charge, so what you will say, minus E minus 2E plus 3E plus 4E. So this will cancel out your total charges plus 4E. So this is basically meaning of charges are additive in nature. Or let us suppose general case, I say if I say I have a charge Q1, I have charge Q2, I have charge Q3, I have charge minus Q4, I have charge minus Q0, let us suppose. And if I say now what is the total charge, so what you will do, it will be Q1 plus Q2 plus Q3 minus Q0 and minus Q4. So that's how you say that the charges are additive in nature. The third property which we are going to deal is very, very important, okay, and that is basically quantization of charges. Now see, when I say quantization of charges, it means that the charge on the body, okay, it means that charge on body is integral multiple of charge of electron. Now this means that your charge on the body Q will always be plus minus Ne, where E is the charge of the electron. Like for example, okay, if I say I have a body, so I cannot say that charge on the body will be minus half E or minus 1 by 3E. It has to be integral multiple where N will have the values 1, 2, 3, 4, so on. So you cannot talk of charges E by 3 or minus 2 E by 3. So these charges you will never be speaking about these charges. But there is one thing, like you have something which are known as quarks. And these quarks basically they are existing, right? So the quarks which are existing are of like, basically it will be something e by 3, okay, and it will be plus e by 3 minus e by 3 minus 2 e by 3. So it is found that there are certain things which are existing like this, but you will find that they will always exist in such a combination where the total will be again an integral multiple of Ne. Like for example, if I say I have E3 and minus 2e by 3, so these cannot exist together, because, and if I say I have a charge of say minus this thing minus 2, so what will be the total charge here? Minus, so this will be minus 3e upon 3, so this is going to be e. So the quarks will exist in this combination only. So this is something more when you are doing the particle physics. So not to do more about it, so this is what we have. And this quantization of charge, okay, like the charges are always going to be integral multiple of electron. So this was basically given by Millikan oil drop experiment. So in Millikan oil drop experiment, you will find that we verified this. It is going to be this. And what is the value of charge on each electron? What is the value of charge? So the charge on each electron is equal to minus 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 19 coulomb. This is charge on one electron. Another, you will find that see, whenever we had spoken about mass, hai na? So if suppose object of mass m is moving with a very high velocity, then that relativistic mass, so that relativistic mass comes into effect because this mass is depending upon velocity. So relativistic mass is given by m is equal to m naught upon root of 1 minus v square upon c square, where m naught is the rest mass and m is the relativistic mass and v is the velocity of the object. What is v? V is the velocity of object and c is the velocity of light. So if your v is very much less than c, then you can see that m is equal to m naught. So we don't really speak about relativistic mass and rest mass in our normal cases. But if the mass begins to move with a very high velocity, then you will find that the mass will increase. If suppose you are moving it with a velocity equal to c, so your mass will be equal to m naught upon 0, no? 1 minus 1 will be 0, so infinite. So if you start moving with the velocity of light, then your mass will become infinity. So that's an interesting aspect to see. So this is happening in mass, okay, but you will find that when we talk of the charge, so your charge at rest is same as charge in motion. That is, it is relativistically invariant. What does it mean? It does not vary relativistically, but your mass is varying and therefore relativistically variant, but your charge is. So even if you are moving a charge with very high velocity, you will find that the charge, if the charge on the electron is 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 19 Newton coulomb, it is going to remain the same. So this is all regarding basically the properties. Now this relativistic mass and charge is relativistically invariant. This is something I explained you, but in the exam you are supposed to write down about the three properties that you have about the conservation of charges, additive charges and quantization of charges. I hope this part is clear to you. So quickly we can just recap what we have done. So we started with the electrostatics. So electrostatics, if you see, it carries a weightage of around 8 marks in your board examination. So it is carrying a weightage of 8 marks in your board examination. So today we have seen about basically the frictional electricity. So what is meant by frictional electricity, what are the charges. Even you must have seen, if you try to explain about the frictional electricity, you must have seen that all the inflammable trucks which carry the fuel, so those trucks are basically having a chain, metal chain, which touches to the ground when it is driving. Maybe because of air resistance the body gets charged up, and then maybe because of frictional electricity there will be a spark, and then there will be a disaster. So what we do is that charges which are produced on the body by the help of that conducting chain is passed on to the ground. Or what we do is the tires of those vehicles are made slightly conducting. The same you will find that when during the landing also, when the aircraft is landing, you will find that as soon as it touches the ground, then in the air so much of charge must have been on the body of the aircraft. But there also you will find that the tires are made slightly conducting, so that whatever is the charges can go through the ground and the body is safe. So I think students, I hope this part is clear to you. More about it we'll be doing in the next class. So just go through this concept, and when you join for the next class, see that you have all these concepts clear in your mind. So thank you students.